Hi, and welcome to the Deep End Extras 3. I originally called it 2, and then I realized I already used 2 for the other thing, so yeah, Deep End Extras 3. Or, if you want to consider it, Season 2 Extras. Why? Because I can. Before I fully go into it, I just want to immediately say that not everything in the last, full extras is going to be included. So that means there aren't going to be, scripts, there's not going to be, a lot of the extra stuff that doesn't really relate to the shows themselves. That's mostly because either I felt like it was too much or I didn't really like how I formatted it, especially the scripts. So this is pretty much the only extras video that I'll make for this semester. But other than that, stay tuned for pretty much the character designs for Season 2. So first off, I just wanted to give you the full extent of the poster that I did for this semester. Big differences are there's no longer the colored parts on deep and end. If you didn't see it, the previous poster I did had an orange and yellow title. Another big difference is DJ and Croton's text are different, just in terms of the font. I wanted it to look a little more like someone actually drew it rather than just basic fonts you use. Another thing is obviously the day changed because that was a different day I did it, and I changed up the description just to be short and simple, and frankly, doesn't get more self-explanatory than that. And smallest minor thing is just I squished the BVZ radio and the QR code together. Just save space, I guess. But other than that, the heads are still the same. I have been thinking about trying to do a full-on, beach background, but I didn't want to take too much time into it, and I already like the background and the heads I have for the poster, but now that I have the inclusion of Al and Xander kind of integrated into the show, at least for Season 3, chances are I'll probably add their heads too, which means I'll have to change up the whole format of this. But that's something I can experiment with either over winter break or just before I start doing Season 3. And that pretty much does it for the, anything outside of the shows themselves. Now we get into the character designs. So starting off, we have Croton, specifically Casual Croton, because he's not in his diver uniform 24/7. So with this, I just did a very simple, I figure, his shirt is related to the ocean in terms that it's just blue. His pants kind of remind me of kelp. The shoes, I think I just went with the purple because it was similar to his diving fins. Other than that, yeah, he's just basic guy, basic stuff. Not really one for DJ because, he stays in the same outfit anyway. I know it's kind of funny that in a lot of shows, some characters literally never ever change outfits. And I don't want to say that's true for mine too. It's more like to create a brand new outfit every single show or every single instance or whatever would be really draining. And considering that you can't even see the characters anyway, you just kind of have to picture them when you listen to the show, then you can kind of just make up your own outfits for them if you feel like. Which does kind of fall into the thing I said back in the PAQ 1 is if you ever wanted to make fan art of my characters, never look at them as this is exactly how I expect them to look like, and if you dare change anything, you're a horrible, nasty person. No. I'm not an artist. I don't have the best artistic vision. If you believe that maybe their body shape should be changed or maybe a certain color on their outfit should be changed or even just the full on I feel like this character would look a lot better in this kind of outfit over this, then by all means do it. I only ask that you kind of use my designs as a reference point, but other than that, go off. Just, if you are going to do it, try to at least put a little bit of credit by me, unless you just completely remake the whole character. But at the very least, you can own any design you wish to do, but do keep in mind that I was the one who gave you the idea for the character. I'm not going to hunt you down, but I will be very upset. Now back to the lighthearted stuff. So for show one, there really wasn't anyone new except for uh, the character of the story, Brianna, which, as I said, was a pretty much a literal lobster. So if you haven't guessed from Grotton's design or from the Deep End Extras 1, I use Hero Forge to make all these characters. A, not sponsored, and B, it's just what I found the easiest to do for a guy who can't really take the time to sit and model every single character, especially if he doesn't have drawing skills. So, Brianna, my biggest thing was like, okay, it was going to be a blue lobster, but like really big. And I'm like, if this were animated, it would probably be similar to like Nemo, where it has like big humanoid eyes and like an actual mouth you can see it talk out of. But since Euroforge doesn't currently have stuff like that, instead, you get this. Sorry if that creeped you out, but that's pretty much what Brianna would look like, at least in real life, so yeah. But now in show 2, we actually do have new characters, and one of which is the introduction of Al, as you see spelled A-L-E. Not ale, Al. Al, biggest thing I was going for is like, okay, he's supposed to be an engineer, so I figured it would make sense for him to have this like lab-esque look, but less bioscientist and more like guy who sits in his house all day scientist. So his lab coat is like black, which goes along with the rest of his like dark clothing, which is also kind of reminiscent of some of my usual, in quotations, styles, because I sometimes just wear all black outfits. Not for any particular reason, that's just what happens. And then he has goggles on his head for when he's like welding stuff together and he doesn't want to lose his eyesight. Here's Al without his jacket, so you can kind of get a better idea for his body shape. There are no characters in this season that have nothing underneath their like clothing, so do not worry about anything like that. And of course, here's the close-up of Al. It's kind of hard to tell with Hero Forges, but he actually has gray eyes, not blue. All right, next up, the actual story character for show 2 is Cole the Golem. Now, I described him as kind of like essentially a Frankenstein, but magical. I feel like I kinda. I mean, the obvious thing is like these aren't stitches, they're just kind of like scars painted black. That's because there really wasn't any stitch options, like decals for the characters, so biggest change would obviously these would have to be stitches, and there would probably be a lot more of them. Other than that, I didn't want to just make Cole just like, oh, he was beautiful all along and he was just being self-doubt worthy. Nah, I'm like, you'd probably still freak out if you saw him in a dark alley, but maybe if he were to approach you and you gave him a few looks over, you'd probably go, actually, he's not that scary. The heterochromia is just design choice, nothing more, nothing less. I said I wanted to make him magical, so I kind of gave him a magical look. And since he is supposed to be a Frankenstein, I figured it made sense to have it seem like he has different body parts, but I didn't want to just make him a total amalgamation of flesh, so that's mostly why he still looks like some form of a humanoid. The pants itself, take that whatever you wish. Could be bandages, could be just green pants, could be leaves. General point was just like, he didn't really bother all that much with clothes, so that's why he looks the way he does. Next, the motherly figure to Cole is the Old Witch. Didn't really give her a name, didn't really plan on giving her a name, maybe later in the future, but it depends on how I feel. Or if someone else could give her a name, because I can't think of anything off the top of my head, for once. Now, typically when you think of a witch, you might immediately imagine people like Elphaba from Wicked, which, ironically enough, I've seen the second part and not even the first. But anyway, I didn't want to just do your classic green Wicked Witch, so I did still want to make her look older, but instead I went with this more purple skin tone. And as you see, it's really hard to tell, especially with how I cropped some of the images, but she's supposed to be shorter, like much shorter. But I felt like I did a rather decent job at making her look like what you would consider an old witch. Here is her without her hat and her robe and other like things covering her body. Like I said, this is what she would actually wear underneath, so do not worry about that kind of stuff. I think one of the biggest troubles I have is always the hair. Not in terms of like choosing what hair to put on a character, but just like if they have a ponytail or just something really like poofy, sometimes the clothing will clip through it and then it just looks weird. It's like if you look back, there's not supposed to be a hole through the cape, that's just clipping. So I think I tried positioning it in a way where it like hanged over, but it just didn't look right. So if you're a lot better at drawing hair on characters, I would highly recommend you do whatever it takes to make it look natural, because I tried and I couldn't. And of course, here's her close-up. I realized that they did have like a aging feature, but instead I kind of went with the vampire face. She's not a vampire, I just kind of thought, it looks wrinkly enough. But I didn't want her to look so wrinkly that she was literally about to pass away in seconds. You get the idea. Next, for show 4, not show 3, because Travis, I mean, he's supposed to be a bulldog spirit, and I was thinking essentially he would just be a giant bulldog that looks like a spirit. Nothing more, nothing less. The teenager is up to interpretation. There's not any specific design I was going for on that. That's why I left it very vague. And things like the Spirit Master are also, like, I have an idea for what I want them to look like, but now I don't want to reveal that design just yet. That would be something that kind of comes up later, and there is specific reason to it, which Xander did kind of allude to, but I'm not sure if people would have picked up on it. But in show 4, the only, like, brand new character we got was SOH, or Spirit of Halloween. As you see, just as described in the story, black skeleton, glowing orange eyes, purple trench coat, dashing, yet frightening. He has, like, Halloween magic in his hands. That's why it's smoky with skulls on it. Actually, one of my oldest designs, and so he's actually one of my situations where I pulled a very old character and put it into this, similar to characters like MM, where he existed in my mind for a lot longer than the Deep End existed, and then some. But never really found a way to use him until now. Here he is without his trench coat, still a skeleton. Not much to say, it's a skeleton. And then, since I kind of alluded to it a lot in a few different shows, here is Xander's true form. The Tiefling Sorcerer himself. As you see, very different from the other design back in Extras 1, but still, like, same hairstyle, same general face shape. Certain things, like, his eyes were green in his human form, and they're still green here. That's kind of why I chose that. But anyway, whenever I think of a mysterious traveler who just so happens to be a sorcerer tiefling, this is pretty much what I think of. That, and as I said, he was just like, I was playing around with his design, making sure that, like, he stood out from MM, and I feel like I definitely did that. And here he is without his trench coat and his, like, orange, green Grello? Yeah, Grello jumpsuit thing. Here it is without the hat. Here are his horns. Pretty simple stuff. And as an added bonus, this is the original, like, model I used for him. Like, in terms of if I were to use him in a D&D campaign and they're like, oh, give us a picture of him. Here you go. Biggest difference being the coat. It has all this camo pattern and stripes and whatnot. I figured to make it easier for people who want to draw him, you can just do plain orange. But if you do want the extra challenge, there you go. Here's also him using some spells. You got lightning and fire, and kind of hard to see, but he has like a wrist blade on his hand, so there's that too. Okay, moving into show 5. The story character, or the main story character, Mia. Mamma Mia. As you see, biggest thing I was going off of was, okay, she's stuck in the current politic of pop, so her design is based off of popular things. And typically, like, if you take like trolls for instance, you think of things that are pink, bright, in your face, clean, neat, stuff like that. I was thinking of doing the funk outfit, but they didn't really have bits and pieces that I would have wanted to create into it, so that's why I decided to leave it out. Also, her hair is not naturally pink, it is dyed. Now, Mia can't be a mother without her daughter, and her daughter is none other than Kim. Very, 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 very briefly mentioned in the story, but still, she's supposed to be the current pop idol and president of Ritem, so big inspiration was kind of just, okay, if I was thinking of a pop idol, what would it be? And of course, some of the few things that came to mind were flashy outfits, once again, pink, bright colors. Eye color, not naturally pink, those are contacts. And of course, microphone, because she's a singer. One design thing I will say, for some reason, the specific suit she's wearing, on Hero Forge, it's the superhero suit, and it automatically gives people abs. She's not supposed to have abs, but, I mean, if you want to include them, you can. If you don't want, you don't have to. Now, Kim didn't just spawn out of nowhere, neither was she adopted. She has a father, who just so happens to be Mia's ex, Hank. Hank is more of a rock person, so I kind of went with classic mohawk, and I would say this is a rather rock-esque look whenever you think of someone who's into rock. As you see, he's very rugged looking. I don't want to say mean, but definitely not someone you want to just casually approach. And yeah, not much to it than that. Now on to show 6, we have the Dust Monster was supposed to be the main story character, but it was kind of hard to recreate that in Hero Forge. So instead, I had the other character, once again, kind of mentioned, but still a part of that other story that if you listened into the deep dive for show 6, I talked about a lot more, the Conductor. And in the show itself, you'll hear about him being, well, the Grim Reaper in disguise. So I was like, okay, if I had to turn the Grim Reaper into a human, what would he look like? And this is kind of what came to mind. Could have done a, black for his trench coat, but I thought that was too on the nose, so instead I went with brown. Just something that looked devoid of life. Here he is without his coat and cap. As you see, he is extremely skinny. And once again, hard to tell, but he is also extremely tall. I figured I wanted him to look like if he was just like a skeleton with a skin suit, which I know that's what humans usually are, but he also looks like he has zero muscle on him. And close-up shot, I like the eyes I used for him. I feel like it's the best way to portray someone who's not fully alive, but also isn't dead either. I mean, it depends on your personal perception of what the Grim Reaper is, but I like to think it's kind of on the cusp of a mortal and a deity, but whatever. And now we move on to Owl's creations. First up with DJP001. 0 is in a different font because the Impact font made 0 and O look exactly the same, so I wanted to make sure you knew. Anyway, as you see, it's literally just, it looks exactly like DJ, but now it has chrome skin, copper-looking hair, and also the reason why it still has the glasses on is because that is its eyes. It is literally welded to its face. And you'll find that similar with Grottenbot too. And then I made sure every color on him is some form of metal. Even the ones that look like they shouldn't be, they are all metal. And where would the for some reason storybot be without the for some reason music bot? KR4-K3N. Similar to Croton, he also has the same look. However, since he is a robot, he doesn't have the diver suit or diver gear on because he's not going to go for a swim. But he still gave him the flippers anyway for aesthetic. And he still has the scuba mask, even if, once again, he doesn't need to go in the water. And similar to DJP001, all the colors on him are made out of some form of metal, even the like stubble or buzz cut thing. There isn't anything for show 8 because it was just DJ and Groton and Xander and Al. I haven't fully decided on a design for Dave just yet, so he'll probably be included in the extras for Season 3. But other than that, now we move on to Season 9. First off, with the main character of the story, Noah Light, or Noah L for short. Now, when you think of Santa, does your mind immediately go to a white Santa with blue eyes or a black Santa with brown eyes? Well, regardless of what you thought, I was like, okay, instead of trying to choose between either, I was like, wait, what if we had a Santa with vitiligo? And there we go, Noah. Now, I'm going to say this now before anyone else tries to do stuff like this themselves. Whether it be a mental condition, skin condition, some other, like even a physical condition, don't just casually put them on characters. Do understand that there are real life challenges with these conditions, even if they're more accepted in our society today. It doesn't mean that there weren't challenges that had to be faced with it. Like, if I see someone with vitiligo, my first instinct is, wow, that person is awesome. But there are other people who will not look at them the same way. So try not to just add it to a character and then have it be like, oh, and everyone loved me, the end. Because sadly, that's not realistic. So my main, reason for keeping it like this is that is why Grace didn't seem as interested in Noah as, Chris, is because of the skin condition. In her mind, she wanted to have a perfect Christmas couple, and Noah didn't fit her description, regardless of his skills. That, to me, is what kind of adds more depth into their relationship, and kind of still doesn't paint Grace in a good light, but it also gives her a better motive than just, I didn't feel like it. Here we have Noah without his coat. Still has a sweater on, so his arms are still covered, but you can kind of guess what it would look like under there anyway. And similar to with the vitiligo, I also gave him heterochromia because I was like, why choose between blue eyes and brown eyes if you could have both? I'm not sure how people might react to this kind of design. I hope that they don't immediately treat it with negativity. I like how it looks, and I'm not changing it. Speaking of Grace, we have Grace. Now, I thought it was going to be hard because obviously I didn't just want to put her in the exact same outfit that Noah had. But honestly, this coat, despite what it's supposed to be for, works really well in this context. Especially when I added the Christmassy colors or the Santa colors or whatever. I feel like this made it look like a Mrs. Claus outfit. Bonus points for the, buckles on the shoes. Here she is without her coat. Like I said, if you don't agree with the body proportions, feel free to change it or alter it or whatever. Next, we have Kris Kringle, once again with CHs. I figured since he kind of took over the role of Santa, I pretty much put him in the exact same outfit Noah had. Just big thing you notice is that he doesn't have the same body shape as Noah, for he's a lot skinnier. But it's kind of hard to see, even without his coat, it's hard to see. He's also supposed to be a bit more muscular, but kind of hard to see in the outfit. But yeah, there's really not much to him. He's just supposed to be Grace's preferred person to be Santa, even if he doesn't have the same skills as Noah in the slightest. Now we finally get to the main love interest towards Noah, Candace. Obviously, I try to inspire her based off of, a few different Cramp By designs. I don't know if that's plural or not, but go with it. So, I try to design her horns similar to the yucky looking stuff that you usually see on pictures. I tried to match she still has the red and white, but as you notice, it's a little more faded. kind of like separating her from the usual brighter red and white. Gave her those red demon-esque eyes and the long tongue. Theoretically, I could have made it longer, but it would have looked really weird at that point. Tail, claws, hooves, Krampus. Here she is without her coat. Like I said, she doesn't look super monstrous, but she doesn't look superhuman either. And that's kind of what I was going for. And then lastly, the last new character that was introduced, MM. Well, specifically in his holiday form. His magic staff was originally supposed to be like a comically large candy cane that he used like a staff, but they didn't really have anything close enough to what I was looking for, so this is a staff made out of pure Christmas magic. Go with it. Red and green coloring. This is essentially what his normal outfit would look like, just with Christmas colors. Obviously, you haven't seen his normal outfit, but that'll come later. Then here's a close-up of his face. He is not taking the hood off just yet, so be tuned for that next semester. And that's all I have for you. So thank you for watching, and try not to critique me too hard.